Before you can truly shape the future, you must first possess the past. Assimilate our history, for it is your own. Kane wants you to view this.
Accessing Brotherhood archives.
Thousands of years ago, there were two brothers, Cain the farmer and Abel the shepherd. In a moment of jealousy, Cain slew his brother. As punishment, God cursed Cain that the earth he tilled would not provide him sustenance, and placed a mark upon him that prevented anyone from ending his life. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and took up residence in the land of Nod. Thus says the Bible. But Cain did not wither as the years passed. This mark, whether a part of his punishment or as an unintentional side effect, created a man undying. In the centuries that followed, Cain founded a secret organization, the Brotherhood of Nod. Its purpose, its beliefs at this point are unclear, but it's possible Cain already knew of Tiberium and its beneficiaries. At some point in history, Cain and the Skrin would cross paths.
This being already exists in the data core. Genetic derivations unknown.
Whatever form this meeting took, it could have been the source of his prophecies on Tiberium. Whether he believed they would lead him to another planet, another world, or another state of being, we will never know. Perhaps he thought he could use Tiberium and the Skrin as a way to escape his immortality, in one way or another. Then again, maybe it was all just for power. He would one day come to call it Ascension, and he started to play the long game. Living a life in the shadows, the Brotherhood of Nod attracted members into its fold. Using his longevity, otherworldly knowledge, or perhaps sheer charisma, Cain was heralded within this secret brotherhood as a prophet. At the very least, Cain had a taste for power, and the Brotherhood would allow him to achieve it. Throughout the years, agents of Nod would subtly shape the course of history to their benefit, with nationalistic political sock puppets and the craft of disinformation. The most audacious known example was the complete collapse of the Soviet Union following the Second World War. During the war, this man was seen playing personal advisor to Stalin. Stalin was known to be impulsive, driven by his emotions, and seemingly unstable, removing his underlings on a whim. And yet, when this advisor whispers in his ear, Stalin stops and listens to every word, never questioning, never debating. This is the earliest known footage of Cain. By the late 20th century, Nod was prepared for the prophesized arrival. It operated out of multiple command posts around the world, with the Sarajevo Temple of Nod at its head. Since its entry onto the world stage in the 1990s, the Brotherhood has publicly aligned itself with anti-Western ideology, with designs to unify disenfranchised third world nations under its banner. That's what they told the world. In 1995, a meteor carrying Tiberium crashed into Italy, and from there the crystal spread worldwide. As the growth of Tiberium is accelerated by a hotter climate, Nod's ties to equatorial nations gave them a monumental lead in supply of the resource, almost as if it had been planned.
They see a scientific anomaly, a curiosity.
I see the future. In their stubborn ignorance, they continue to work to forestall this future.
Despite their pretense, Nod was at this stage undoubtedly fighting for world domination, but not necessarily for domination's sake. Control of the planet would mean control of all Tiberium on Earth, and this is what Cain was after.
I'm Seth, just Seth. From God to Cain to Seth. I am his right hand, and I have a task for you.
Cain was no fool, but his choice in friends was never his strong suit. Taking his name from the third son of Adam and Eve, Seth was his second in command during the First Tiberium War, overseeing Nod's lower-ranking commanders. Seth was an ambitious, jealous man, and saw the rise of a young commander whose successes had drawn Kane's eye as a personal threat.
I was starting to trust you, but now Kane has asked for your services specifically.
In order to secure his own position, Seth tried to have this upstart removed.
I've taken the liberty of dispatching your troops to the US. Kane has been loath to attack America, but I feel that it's time, and that you're the one to do it. This is the Pentagon. A full frontal attack with your strongest forces should render their military center of operation.
Yes. Power shifts more quickly than some people think. I am Kane.
Despite their early advantage and lead in Tiberium research, Nod was unable to hold off the slow-to-rouse juggernaut that is the Global Defense Initiative. The First Tiberium War came to a close when GDI fired the ion cannon upon the Temple of Nod. The blast may not have killed Kane, but he didn't escape unscathed. Although GDI proclaimed him dead, they were never able to recover a body. Kane was sequestered away to recover, completely cut off from the fracturing Brotherhood. He spent much of the next 30 years in hiding, likely within the Nod Pyramid in Cairo, his new seat of power. By the late 2020s, the largest remaining Nod faction in the Eastern Hemisphere was under the control of General Hassan, a weak leader whose position was consolidated by GDI. He was allowed to maintain his tenuous leadership in return for covertly reporting activity directly to GDI's General Solomon, and for silencing troublemakers.
I have trouble.
Just tell me Slavic is dead.
Escaped.
Do you expect me to believe that?
Framing him as one of your spies was a big mistake. He has more support than we thought.
Then, cover it up and kill him before the truth comes out. And Hassan, if he gains more power, you will become useless to us. And useless things have a way of disappearing.
This arrangement kept the remnants of Nod firmly under GDI's heel. It was during this interim that the Forgotten, a faction of Tiberium mutants loyal neither to GDI or Nod, rose to global significance. Their leader, Tratos, is the earliest known keeper of the Tacitus, an alien archive on Tiberium. And, coerced by Kane, he was able to translate it. At long last, Kane had access to all the information on Tiberium he would need. Based on the Black Hand's earlier Project Regenesis, Kane's next move would be divination, the infusion of Tiberium direct to the bloodstream, which would cause a controlled mutation in order to force the next stage of human evolution. Instead of abominations like Visceroids or the flawed random mutations of the Forgotten, a divine being would be stronger, able to thrive in a world of Tiberium. In 2030, General Hassan was removed by perhaps Kane's most loyal follower, Anton Slavic, in a move that reunited the Brotherhood under a seemingly resurrected Kane.
In the name of Kane! In the name of Kane! In the name of Kane! Kane lives! Rule of thumb, Hassan. You can't kill the Messiah.
Slavic was a cold man, fiercely devout in his faith in Kane. Even 30 years since the ion cannon strike, Kane was still healing, forced to wear a regeneration mask over part of his face. He could only command Nod from afar, his weakness hidden by real-time video manipulation, and so Slavic would lead Nod in his stead. In time, Slavic would become Kane's named successor. Divination was not the only thing Kane learned from the Tacitus.
The Tacitus told me of Tiberium missiles, of invulnerable flying ships, of real-time genetic mutation. More than alien, more than human. The next step in our evolution as a species.
Nod had been emulating alien technology since at least as far back as the First War, perhaps much longer. But the owners of this technology had ever been out of reach. Whether or not they created Tiberium, the Skrin are shackled to it, requiring a constant supply of its unique radiation to live. Essentially, to farm Tiberium, they seed host planets with the crystal by way of a meteor shower, then leave the Tiberium to drain minerals from the crust and to kill off the majority of indigenous life forms. The Skrin then return to harvest when the planet reaches terminal capacity, characterized by an eruption of concentrated liquid Tiberium. Plans within plans, divination was only a means to an end, and not the end itself. Kane intended to summon the Skrin to Earth. Some of this process he somehow knew already, but with the revelation of the Tacitus, he began work on a Tiberium warhead, the world-altering missile, which would cover the surface of the entire planet. The missile was never fired. After a short and bloody war, GDI laid siege to the Nod Pyramid, and Commander McNeil was able to reach Kane.
Not in my world!
But had the missile launched, history would have taken a very different course. In a flash of light, Kane would have vanished from the face of the Earth, achieving Ascension way ahead of schedule. Divination was only a facade. This is Kane's true end goal. Of course, events didn't pan out this way. All I do know now is that Kane is dead. There's no way he's going to snake his way out of this one. I saw that evil light drain from his eyes. Personal log, Commander Michael McNeil. During Tib War II, Slavic and his officers were aided by a callous Nod AI.
The probability of a favorable outcome can be increased if we can return to your main base and engage the enemy as we move.
Define favorable outcome, Cabal.
They all die.
That'll do.
A biological artificial intelligence, Cabal comprised a collection of human minds it used as processors, held in suspension tubes in underground bunkers. Shortly after the war, Cabal turned rogue, killing Tratos and launching a joint attack on both GDI and Nod, using Nod's divination research to create an army of Tiberium-enhanced cyborgs out of civilians. The Firestorm Crisis of 2031 marks one of humanity's darkest moments.
Listen to the sounds of your own extinction, human.
Their combined forces were enough to stop Cabal, but a part of him survived. After his own defeat, Kane's body had been placed in one of the suspension tubes, and his mind was linked with Cabal's.
My vision has permutated. My plans have followed a path unpredicted by the union of Nod and GDI.
Our directives must be reassessed.
Excerpt from private audio logs of the Prophet Kane. Curse this mask, these tubes that imprison me, for even as my flesh is restored, my mind is left to wander alone in darkness. And so it is that my thoughts turn to Cabal, that which was my creation and is now, in a way, part of what I have become. In the end, Kane's strength of will overcame the wounded Cabal, and after several years in sensory deprivation, he emerged once more into the waking world.
They have abandoned us, my child.
The year is now 2034. Nod had once again been reduced to infighting factions without its leadership, and Kane once more found himself betrayed by those he had thought loyal.
Cain, the son of Adam, murdered his own brother, wandered the earth, a fugitive, because he turned against his own.
Kane was a coward and a traitor who long ago lost faith in the purity that is Tiberium. His violent demise was the result of his own lies and blasphemies. And he will be brought down to the pit of hell, and all there will stare at him and ask, can this be the one who shook the earth and the kingdoms of the world?
One of Marcion's fanatics murdered my successor, Anton Slavic, leader of the Black Hand.
With the loss of Slavic, it was instead to the memory of Cabal that he turned. A small part of him obsessed over the megalomaniacal machine, and so with precious data preserved from the Tacitus, which had been taken by GDI, Kane created a new artificial life form out of the remnants of Cabal, which he named Legion. For one final time, Legion reunited the defected Nod factions under one vision.
What's the matter, my son? You do not seem very happy to see me.
If I knew, if I thought...
You wouldn't have betrayed me. Come, my brother! It is time you saw the face of the future.
Without the Tacitus, a second world-altering missile was not an option. But perhaps he could achieve something similar. Here's the plan. Amass a huge deposit of liquid Tiberium beneath, for instance, the reconstructed Sarajevo Temple Prime, and have GDI use the ion cannon to light the fuse.
According to the Tacitus, a liquid Tiberium explosion would alert the visitor's scout ships. But all of my experiments with liquid T failed to produce the necessary blast yield. That is why I started the war with GDI, to provoke their ion cannon retaliation. The only force my science ministers deemed a strong enough detonator for liquid T.
Of course, GDI isn't that stupid, so have them promote someone who is. Someone to whom the political benefits of digging so deep in Nod territory outweighs the strategic drawbacks. Say, the GDI Director of the Treasury, Redmond Boyle. He could be held back from the 2047 Annual Energy Summit by a stealth assault on the Treasury, while the rest of the Council of Directors on board the GDSS Philadelphia are wiped out in a nuclear strike. And what is a newly appointed Director General to do, but to strike back? The detonation would attract the Skrin to Earth for routine Tiberium harvesting with thresholds, but they would find a planet armed to the teeth and ready for war. While GDI keep the visitors busy, Nods need only secure a single threshold and recover the Tacitus. Once the Tacitus is linked with the Legion, Kane could activate the warp gate within the threshold and achieve Ascension, as long as his followers could remain faithful and stay the course.
Once again, the world is quick to bury me. How could my own brothers believe that what transpired at the Temple Prime did not unfold exactly as I planned? Of course, I could not have planned for an ambush by my own forces!
General Killian Qatar was Kane's second in command. She was loyal to him, but unlike many of his more zealous devotees, didn't believe him infallible. She began to doubt his seemingly unsound commands.
We should never have been so aggressive. But who dares tell Kane he's overreaching without fear of punishment?
Not understanding that Kane intended for GDI to take Temple Prime, and finding herself outgunned but refused her requests for reinforcements, Killian lost her nerve. During the siege on Temple Prime, Killian's forces turned on Kane, an unforgivable betrayal for which Killian would be executed. but the command instead came from Abbess Alexa Kovacs. Alexa was fanatically reverential to Kane, a fanaticism which turned her dangerously paranoid.
How dare she question Kane? She feigns loyalty and obedience, but do you see how she looks at him? As if she is his equal?
When Alexa discovered that Legion had been built from Cabal, she projected her personal vendetta onto Legion.
Cabal's cyborg army murdered many innocents, murdered my parents. I pray I am wrong about you, Legion. I pray for us.
Just as Legion was about to interface with the Tacitus, Alexa snapped and sabotaged the AI.
I will not let you usher in an age of machines. I will not be your slave. I will not.
What have you done?
It was turning against you. It was taking control.
Doubt me?
Killian did.
Yes, and now she is dead.
Only because I ordered the attack on Sarajevo.
Take her away. Interrogate her. Do not be gentle.
Peace. Through power!
Kane had ever been surrounded by the similarly power-hungry, the blindly faithful, and Nod has a long history of duplicity. He had toiled for thousands of years to achieve his goal, only for one of his own to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Kane was betrayed in the name of Kane. With the loss of Legion, Nod was unable to hold on to the Tacitus. The war was over, the Skrin had been driven back by GDI, and Nod had captured a threshold. But without the Tacitus, and without Legion, the threshold could not be activated. Kane had failed. It took 5 years of repairs before Legion would reawaken.
It is as he prophesied. Quickly, go get Kane! Legion has arisen!
The Tacitus is calling to you, my friend.
Commanding an army of cyborgs that had once belonged to Cabal, Legion launched one final attack on a heavily fortified GDI compound in the Rocky Mountains, and successfully recaptured the Tacitus.
The prophecy has come to pass. At last the Tacitus is in our hands. Legion, my child, you are my greatest creation. It is time for you to take center stage. Time for you to achieve the purpose for which you were created. One vision, one purpose.
2052. More than 80% of the Earth's surface is contaminated with Tiberium. Much of it is no longer able to support terrestrial life. Despite suffering heavy losses during the invasion, GDI has reasserted control over the planet, though they know it is being watched. The Skrin are not one to sit content with their humiliation.
Prepare a full invasion force. Earth will fall.
But Nod has Legion. Nod has the Threshold. Nod has the Tacitus. And Kane, son of Adam, can finally ascend. My name is Stefan. Thank you so much for watching.